That was fighting for gay rights, and people were killed.
Nobody was killed at Stonewall.
Nobody was killed.
I wanted to take you back today to a time that might feel nostalgic to some of you, while also offering newer fans a chance to get a glimpse at what it was like to be a fan of the series back in the late 2016 to early 2017 era. This video is one that I actually tried my best to make as accurate as possible, while explaining exactly what the key differences are between then and now. So take a seat as we explore a time of what it was like when season 9 aired, and the whole world bared witness to it. But before we start, you ever had one of those weeks where your stomach just doesn't feel right? Yeah, that was me until I tried Colon Broom, the sponsor of today's video. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this stuff works. Colon Broom is a high fiber supplement made with psyllium husk, which is a powerhouse when it comes to gut health, digestion, and yes, even weight management. I've been using it consistently for a few weeks now, and I genuinely noticed a difference. Way less bloating, smoother digestion, and I don't feel like I need to unbutton my jeans halfway through my day anymore. The taste is surprisingly good. It's not chalky, it mixes quickly with water, and it's super easy to make part of your routine. I take mine mid-morning or early afternoon and just drink plenty of water throughout the day. And here's the wild part, over 83% of users reported a lighter feeling in their bowels after just 4 weeks. I get it, I've been there, and now I know what they mean. You don't need to change your entire lifestyle, just 1 scoop a day. That's it, and it's backed by science. So if you've been dealing with bloating, sluggish digestion, or just want to feel lighter and more yourself again, Colon Broom is a great place to start. Click the link in my description or scan the QR code on the screen right now to get up to 65% off Colon Broom using my code. So give it a shot and support the channel in the process. Now let's begin. When the season 9 promotional trailer was released on March 18th, 2017, it came hot off the trail that All Stars 2 left behind. Keep in mind that when Alaska won All Stars 2, it was October 2016. So about 5 months passed by before we received a new cast of queens. Comparing season 9 to its direct predecessor, season 8, there was already key differences. For one, season 8 only had 12 contestants, while season 9 went back to 14 contestants, which was the number we had gotten used to seeing for what we'd consider a complete season. Not just that though, the promotional rollout was quite insane. For starters, Lady Gaga was the premier guest judge. What many don't realize is that Lady Gaga being on season 9 came after years of World of Wonder trying to coordinate with her. Lady Gaga had expressed interest in being on the show as early as 2013, yet repeated scheduling conflicts made it hard for them to get her on the show. For the cast announcement, they did a Facebook Live where they showcased one random queen that they'd interview. Now, you may be thinking, isn't it a little unfair for them to highlight one queen out of the whole cast instead of giving everyone the same amount of attention? Well, yes, but that didn't matter back then. More importantly, it was our first time being introduced to Valentina. If anything, there was discussion that perhaps Valentina was gonna be the winner of the season, which is why they decided to highlight her. But it was quite the opposite.
They think Valentina is kind of like the young version of each one of them. All my tias.
Of course.
But they're just jealous that I'm skinnier than they ever were.
Skinny isn't everything, girls. Skinny ain't everything. Just saying.
Why?
Represent for the big girls. That's a whole different conversation that's meant to be off this camera.
Oh, okay.
There's better things in life than being skinny. Alice wants to know, what's your biggest fear?
Yet she was only one of the many stars within her cast. What's unique to this season is that each of the queens got to do a little car ride with RuPaul. The concept was Ru was driving them to the workroom set so that they could do their entrance. A fun fact is that this wasn't actually the day that they filmed the entrances. Instead, I think it was the day before. It was either the day before or the day after. If someone could confirm below which one's which, that would be perfect. This was honestly such a good addition to the start of the season because it really gave the queens an opportunity to be able to have a one-on-one moment with RuPaul where they could hopefully stand out a little more. You can also see which queens had a natural chemistry with Ru. Considering for most, if not all of them, this was their first time ever meeting with her, and what a way to do it. It highlighted that RuPaul as a host was truly getting to know the cast members at a much deeper level. Since most of the seasons, all the personal time that they really get is either in the workroom walkthroughs or if they manage to make it to the final. The car ride series also ends with Trixie coming out of the back seat, maintaining that degree of Drag Race campiness that everyone loves.
Wow, these new queens are fantastic. Can you drop me off at the bus stop?
Season 9 was the first season where the promos were actually made months after the season had already wrapped filming. It's hard to really know what are the variables that go into deciding when promos are made, but at least for this edition, it proved to be really beneficial since the queens ended up coming up with some insane looks, in what ended up being the most high quality promo shoot up until that point. Every single one of them looked iridescent. It's to this day such a visually appealing aesthetic that ignites so much excitement. The original idea for the season 9 promo trailer was to showcase the queens out of drag, and then an explosion of color happens that would reveal them in their drag character. For some reason though, despite them actually going ahead and filming their boy version getting covered in glitter, they didn't end up going for it in the final version that was released to the public. I do wonder why. Was it that one of the executives just didn't like the idea, or did it just not look that good once it was all edited together? That being said, I do have a question. If they had gone with the original concept, do you think that the promo trailer for season 9 would rank higher on your list for the best promo trailers, or would it stay the same? 2017 was the first year of Donald Trump's first administration. At the time, it was a sudden wake-up call for everyone that just because things seemed to be going well in terms of progress for the LGBT community and marginalized groups as a whole, that now there was someone in office that didn't represent our best interest. In a sense, season 9 was going to be the shining light of hope. Now more than ever, there was so much significance in the platform, along with the queens that were being launched into stardom. They were, just like their predecessors, inspiring the next generation of not just drag queens, but the queer community as a whole. Back then, social media was a lot different too. Queens used an app called Periscope that was the first app to popularize itself for allowing users to stream to their fan. While it wasn't the first app of this nature, it was the first to end up gaining traction. Queens would link their Periscope on social media, and that's how they would engage with their fans at a much personal level.
What the hell is this Periscope about? This Periscope is about beauty tips, nose hairs, eyebrows. It's the face. It's about the face. Anything going on with the face. I have a weird ear.
It wasn't until years later that other apps like Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook would add live streaming to their platforms too. Live streaming with fans was pretty groundbreaking in terms of people with a big following being able to interact at such a personal level with those that supported them. It's interesting to see the humble beginnings of Periscope and how queens began to use it, to now where we have countless apps with live streaming features, or apps like Cameo where they can literally get paid to make a little shout out video for one of their fans. It's important to keep in mind that at this point, in terms of online presence, there wasn't really a lot out there. For instance, season 9 was only the second main season to have pit stop coverage that tended to only be about 7 minutes long on average. Additionally, this would be the first season to air on VH1, so it brought forth a huge amount of exposure that they previously did not have at their disposal. What's more is that 2017 went on to be the last year where only one main season aired. Starting from 2018, All Stars would become a yearly event, meaning that each main season would have a sister season like All Stars that would also air either shortly before or after. Having said that, you all know the concept of supply and demand. For a product that's popular, the less supply available, the higher the demand. In terms of main seasons, they were sort of the only supply available, especially with the fact that international franchises hadn't yet come in. So even though All Stars would start to be a yearly thing too, it didn't necessarily decrease the amount of success that queens could gain from it. Another big factor why many consider season 9 to be the peak of the franchise was the runways. Season 7 was the first edition where runways started to have a noticeable uptick. Thanks to queens like Violet Chachki or Max, it added more of a younger approach to what drag could be, especially from a fashion-forward perspective. But the bar hadn't really been set yet. Think of it this way. If season 7 was an uptick in runways, season 10 was when it skyrocketed with pretty much every single queen in the cast investing large amounts of money for high-quality couture garments. Season 9 was in that perfect spot, where our understanding or bar for what we considered impressive hadn't yet been lifted into oblivion. Queens like Nina Bonina Brown, who right from the premiere had people taking notice of her, or the consecutive amazing displays of runways from the cast as a whole, maintained an upward trajectory in terms of its quality, especially when compared to the editions that came before. By this point, more queens were catching up to the level of polish that needed to be present if you wanted to succeed at impressing the judges. It was like the last season before it was set in stone that yes, unless you're a super talented seamstress or extremely creative, you're probably gonna have to be paying designers a big check so you can have a chance at making it far in the competition. Speaking of tools that helped you make it further into the season, something that season 9 9 was largely criticized for as it was airing was the lackluster lip syncs. We did get amazing performances from queens, but they tended to be very one-sided, with one queen dominating the stage while the other was really obvious that they weren't going to be putting up a proper fight. I mean, we have Charlie Hides who stood on one spot for the whole song, the messy lip sync between Cynthia and Farrah, Valentina not knowing the words. One of the only face-offs that felt like a good matchup was Aja against Nina Bonina Brown, where you truly didn't know who would be winning the lip sync. Many even attribute this to why production would ultimately make lip syncing the most important factor when they introduced the lip sync for the crown at the finale. But we'll get to that in just a second. One of the few negatives from the production of season 9 was the infamous purple lighting present throughout most of the episodes. For context, when Matthew Anderson was fired from the production team of RuPaul's Drag Race, it sent things into a whirlwind. While Raven was hired to do Rue's makeup and Delta to style wigs, given that they didn't have much time to practice, Rue didn't necessarily look her best. This resulted in the now infamous purple light. This weird choice messed up a lot of the showcases that we saw for a large part of the season, where this overabundant purple filter took over most of the stage. This was shocking since for the past couple seasons, they had actually perfected the lighting on the runway. It was theorized that since Rue now had a new makeup artist trying to figure out what worked for her face, she now looked a little bit busted. So they played around with the lighting to sort of help blend up her face a bit. But it just resulted in a complete disaster for everyone else that walked the runway moving forward. Although, even beyond the lighting, the biggest fumble of season 9 was probably the reintroduction of Cynthia Lee Fontaine. Cynthia was actually the second queen in history to ever be invited for a second consecutive season in the main series. While to some viewers this came out of left field, when Cynthia competed on season 8, she had already begun experiencing symptoms from her cancer that she hadn't yet been diagnosed with, losing a substantial amount of weight between the 3 episodes she competed in, subsequently having to undergo chemotherapy in the months that followed. This resulted in her getting invited to compete on season 9, with her health now in a better place. Yet things didn't turn out for her the way she would have hoped for. In fact, she ends up placing 10th once again, after lip syncing twice in a row. It's important to note that when the season 9 promos were released, they didn't actually include Cynthia's promo because they were still trying to hide her participation in the season from the public, even though it was sort of an open secret that she had returned. It was also a little weird that they waited until the end of the first episode to add her into the group, but I'll assume it was because they really wanted to subvert people's expectations, even those that had heard the rumors about her return. Cynthia technically had everything under her belt to succeed. She had already went through the process of filming in season 8, had established herself with the fan base, got some of that booking fee, and was now connected to a lot of designers in the industry. Yet ultimately, just because you're a good drag queen, it doesn't always translate to a good performance in the show. And with her leaving in the first half of the season, it made it so that her return didn't actually have that much of an impact in the overall competition. That brings me to a presence that did have a somewhat bigger effect in the way things played out, and that's Nina Bonina Brown. Nina was one of the most prevalent storylines of season 9. It was hard not to find someone that wasn't obsessed with her intriguing drag style, especially since she was displaying something that we hadn't really seen before. What's more is that her personality showcased someone that was unsure of themselves, allowing her inner saboteur to constantly get in the way of her success. I talked more about this in this video I made about her years ago, but yes, Nina ends up placing 6th place after having a pretty tumultuous run towards the end of her time in the competition. It wasn't so much that Nina had winner energy, since that is a presence that dominates most of the editions we get of the series. It was more so that yes, Nina was somewhat a bit of a mess mentally, yet it was that self-destructive perspective that a lot of viewers actually found themselves in and related to her. After all, she represented what a good portion of people would have behaved like if they were also in her shoes. But anyways, when we get to the grand finale of season 9, the twist of the lip sync for the crown was unexpected, even for the queens within the top. The 4 of them weren't even told until a couple days before filming that it would be even happening. It's easy for modern fans to view finales as an episode where it's still truly anyone's game to win, but back then, more often than not, it was gonna go to the queen that had the best track record, which in this case was Shea Coulee. In a sense, it tended to be more so a laid-back episode that was a means of formalizing the conclusion of the season. Yet season 9 would set the franchise down a path that would lead us to where we are today. No longer would it be about consistency. It would instead be a focus on unpredictability, gags, with twists and turns that went on to become the new reality of the series moving forward. The mix of new additions, topped with the fact that season 9 was the first season to air under the network of VH1, resulted in one of the most highly acclaimed seasons from the first decade of the series, and one that to this day almost almost 10 years later still manages to be among many people's favorites. I mean, out of 14 queens to compete on season 9, there's been a total of 9 queens that have been invited to return to All Stars, with some even returning more than once. That list includes Shea Coulee, Trinity the Tuck, Alexis Michelle, Valentina, Pheromone, Aja, Cynthia Lee Fontaine, Eureka, and James Mansfield. The only contestants that still haven't gotten invited back are Sasha Velour, who's the winner, Peppermint, Nina Bonina Brown, Charlie Hides, and Kimora Black. So out of these queens, who would be the 2 that you'd like to see get invited to All Stars 11? Let me know in the comments. In many ways, season 9 was the peak of the franchise. It was the amalgamation of everything that the series had been leading up to up until that point. The expectations from the audience was still at a level where it allowed for a roller coaster of a viewing experience, as opposed to when we reached the double-digit seasons, and the line of what it took to gag us had sort of plateaued, making those moments a lot more scarce. Yet, what are your thoughts, and what season do you consider to be the peak of the franchise and why? Let me know in the comments. Thanks again to Colin Broom for sponsoring today's video. Make sure to claim up to 65% off using my code or by scanning the QR code on the screen, and support the channel in the process. I want to take a moment to thank my patrons. In the Elite Pink Squad, we have Matthew Burns, Sari Tish, Las Potitas, Gay Uncle, Natasha DeLeon, Cool Gal Nan, and Jetzam Adams. And in the Green Squad, we have Cayman Rider Furry, Edgar Allan Pup, The Only Sean, IJS, Not a Punch But a Keek, Jack Beck, Bashir with the good beard, Galeria Gomez, Sarah G, Boiled Peanut, Max Whale, Olivia Marr, Dea, Scarlet Rose, and our newest additions, welcome to the Green Squad, Niall O'Hearn, and Michael Alsante. If you'd like to join the Patreon, if you'd like to support me on Patreon, you can click the link in the description, and I'll see you guys next time.